First of all, congratulations. What an amazing movie. Movie of the year so far, I'd say.
Thank you. I agree. I'm a big fan of it as well.
Yeah. How did you get involved and did you know the extent to which you were going to put yourself through so much in that movie from the
Um,
start?
so I got it like the old-fashioned way. I did an audition for this. So I mean, most of the characters I would say besides myself and my son maybe went straight to offer or straight to a chemistry read or a meeting with Zach, and I sent in a tape for this about a month before we started. But no, I had no idea, one, how big it was going to be. I knew the script was good, but I didn't know it would leave its horror genre and enter the mainstream quite the way that it has. And I also didn't know the extent to which I would be demonic, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've tried so far to sort of not go. I feel like most people who were really desperate to see it might have seen it already. So I don't want to give too much away, obviously, but there are some really dark sort of subjects being broached here. And then the tone is very important because it's a kind of like there is a sort of a feeling of dread throughout the movie. Are you
Yeah,
at all a fan of those kind of sort of horror movies that aren't just pure horror that yeah.
absolutely. I love, I think there are very few genres that don't benefit from laughs, to be honest. I think that comedy fits in and can provide the relief you need in a lot of different genres. And I would also say that I think horror also benefits from real world trauma. Some of the best horror movies start in a situation that's already quite traumatic and dark in and of itself before you introduce maybe any paranormal or spiritual darkness. And it adds a whole nother layer. I think, Midsommar is a great example, how her life is just completely turned upside down and is so, so tragic before the movie even really begins. I think it adds something.
There's been a lot of talk of sort of there is allegory and it could be taken as a sort of an allegory for school shootings, for example, because a whole class disappears overnight. And I don't know if you've heard of those sort of people talking about that. So what are your feelings on that kind of take?
I've been keeping an eye on uh, the guesses, some of them conspiracy theories for sure. And I think the beautiful thing is that when you make a really good movie, a lot of different allegories fit on top of it quite well,
Yeah.
and you can see a lot of what you want to see. I don't, I'm fairly certain that Zach did not set out to make a movie that was an allegory for school shootings, but I think it naturally developed that way. And I think he's, of course, aware that there are strains of that story in there. He's now been a lot more upfront about um, his own personal backstory that inspired some of this. So he said a lot of it for him wasn't about making an outward analogy, it was about going inward. And he's talked a lot about growing up in a family where alcoholism was rampant, and that is a big, big contributing factor to Alex's story in particular.
I want to talk about your character because what happens to her and her husband in the movie is kind of nothing short of absolutely shocking. I mean, there was scenes where, let's say, because I would rather not give too much away. There are some scenes that are super shocking when you see them first. How did you deal with filming those scenes? And how was there like much prosthetics used and stuff? Because she's doing some really awful stuff to herself and
Yeah.
physically.
Most people have seen the trailer with the fork stabbing moment. Those prosthetics I think took maybe 2 hours to do every day, and there was quite a few days where we needed them, so those happened a lot. And I would say that a lot of my character's darker moments are sort of in like a fugue state, and it sort of benefited me to think about it in a way of when parents get overwhelmed. I'm a parent, and I know most parents at some point in their parenting journey become extremely overwhelmed, and you have this fantasy of sort of just shoving it all away and just being like, okay, I'm just alone for a second, or I just have a second to breathe. And I imagined what it would be like for a parent to get stuck in that moment and to not be able to get back out. It's sort of like bed rotting, but not being able to stop and it just continually going on. So I would sort of put myself in this foggy place where I could sort of hear things and observe things, but I couldn't really do anything about it, like a sleep paralysis almost.
Yeah, I was going to say there is such a thing as ADHD paralysis, where there are so many things going on around you that you don't actually know where to start. So it sort of renders you incapable of dealing with anything rather than one thing at a time.
I'm
Um,
very familiar with that one.
yeah, same. That's why I related to it so much in that instance. Let's talk about what sort of had you seen any of Zach's other movies or his movie Barbarian before?
Yeah, I had, yes, absolutely. And it was the first time I had ever gotten a project where I had so much admiration for a director. I loved Barbarian. I saw it twice in theaters, I think. And when my agent sent me the script or the audition, it was still called the Untitled Zach Cregger Project. And she said, I don't know if you're gonna have time for this with your current project. And I said, we will find time for this. So I was very familiar with Barbarian. And then I also grew up on a generation that was obsessed with Whitest Kids You Know.
Mm,
YouTube was the only real social media pretty much at the time that I was in, junior high, high school, and we loved Whitest Kids You Know.
mm. How are you all feeling about the positive reviews and the reaction that the film is having? Is it like in your wildest dreams, did you actually think this was going to happen to you guys?
Yep. I think we all recognized what a special script it was. I also think with the success of Sinners and that sort of making it out of the horror fan, kingdom and into the mainstream, I think we all hoped it would. We all thought it deserved it. When I was on set, a friend of mine, Clayton, who plays Terry, he was telling me, this script is so good. This is an Oscar script. And I said, I remember thinking at the time, like, well, that's never going to happen, no matter how good the script is. And now I'm watching the reactions and thinking, all right, I think we should give Amy Madigan her Oscar. And maybe this is getting enough recognition that it's being seen not just as a great horror film. So we hoped for it, didn't ever expect this level of appreciation, and so grateful to see Zach get his flowers, really.
Let me ask you about the scenes where the little boy who plays your son, because it's kind of like a really dark subject to be broached to work with children around, and how much of that, how was that handled from what you could see by Zach and the whole sort of the team working with him? Was it made? How was the how? What it's kind of complicated to work with children when you are working in horror because there are things they might not understand straight away. It's probably very fun for them to see all the sort of the gore around them. But what was it like working with him and making him understand that none of it was real?
Carrie is such a smart young man. He is lovely, respectful, and he has a wonderful set of parents who are always looking out for him. His mom was a constant presence on set. And in addition to that, Zach and the whole team were great at treating him. I don't want to say as the star, but he is. He's absolutely a star. But he was very supported, and when Carrie was on set, in a sense, we all felt that presence, and we all knew that we've all done our own acting training or had our own experience in our own different ways, but it's different when it's a child, and we all, I think, felt protective over him in a way. So it was making sure that he knew he was doing a fantastic job. Zach always was lifting him up emotionally, making sure that, and you could give him really good direction. Zach was able to work with him and get great performances out of him, and he took direction very well. But at the same time, just praising him for sort of the natural talent that he had, I think was important so that he knew that he was killing it. And because of that, and again, because his parents were so well attuned to the set, I think he just had a great time. And he was really able to snap in and out of those traumatic moments really well.
How do you deal with with playing a character like this, or playing a character going through all the stuff that she goes through? Uh, do you take it home with you? Does it become, do you take a little bit of trauma home back with you, or do you shake it off or at the end of the day and just sort of, I'm out of this now. I'm back to being me.
I have a harder time shaking it off at the end of the day. I would say I'm pretty good at stepping out of it once the entire movie has wrapped. But I think there's a piece of her who's always with me. And also because until the show's wrapped, I want to make sure that I'm doing the most digging possible. So I'm thinking about her all the time. I am a pretty big advocate of, I think there needs to be a cutoff time for purely for mental health reasons.
Mm.
Um, but I loved continuing to explore her. And because I was away from my family, a lot of the time I was able to go home and walk around as her and think as her, or, sort of journal as her and get even deeper into that. I do have a Brazilian mother-in-law
Oh,
who is very strict with me that I was to not do any possessed or demonic scenes without a piece of tape on my belly button. So I did have a piece of tape on my belly button almost every time that we were in a controlled state. There's a couple times I forgot, and that started to weigh on me, but she was very specific, and I trust her.
always listen to an elderly Brazilian lady. They know what they're talking about.
Yes.
Can I talk to you? Can I ask you what you're doing next? Because obviously this is like a breakout. I mean, not that you're not already like a very well-known actor, but it feels like it's going to be a massive breakout role for you as well.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. This has been a good year for me, and I would absolutely say that I don't think anybody was walking down the street recognizing me before Weapons. I am working on a movie that actually starts filming a week from today, is a movie that my wife and I are producing and she's directing, and it is our first horror thriller as a company. Our company's Poison Pictures, and it's sort of a political dystopian horror about a group of people trying to get out of the States under an extremely authoritarian regime and the roadblocks that they find on the way out of their country.
yeah, I mean, not very far-fetched, is it?
Wrote it, it still was.
Yeah.
Now we are making a documentary, I guess, a narrative documentary. But we're really interested in that dynamic. And I think there's still so many kind of complacent Americans who haven't considered that that could be them fleeing their home country. And we want to play with that.
It's fantastic to speak to you again. Congratulations on the movie, and I really hope that I can get to speak to you once your movie is out as well, because I'd
That
be
would
really
be
interested to have a chat. That'd be really good. Congratulations again on this. Honestly, probably my favorite movie of the year so far, and I am keeping my fingers crossed for for the awards for the film and everyone in it, really. So congratulations again.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to meet you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!